Welcome to another edition of Jacqueline of All Trades, and today I want to try something new. I've noticed that a lot of the regular cake mixes have some ideas in the back, and some of those ideas are how to make cookies or brownies or to come up with a more elaborate cake. So since I've been going gluten-free and lactose-free for the most part, I wanted to try this with a gluten-free cake mix. So what I have here is the Live G-free gluten-free yellow cake mix. I got this one from Aldi's, and I'm going to use this one as the flour and the sugar in my cookie recipe. Now I have a tried and true cookie recipe that it's amazing. And so it's a chocolate chip peanut butter cookie. So the first thing that I'm going to have in here, it's going to be 1 stick of melted butter. Now most cookie recipes will tell you that you need to cream the sugar and the butter in order to create an airy mixture. Well, the reality is that as long as you either melt all of the butter or put the butter in soft, then your cookies will turn out. So here I have my butter that is fully melted. There's just a tiny bit in there, and I'm just going to move it around so the heat disperses and it melts that. Very good. Then my recipe calls for peanut butter. Now, I've seen some of the most professional chefs have a special cup to measure the peanut butter. I don't have that, and I'm really not a fan of cleaning cups with peanut butter in them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to eyeball it. So it says 1/2 cup of peanut butter. So I have a knife, because that's the longest utensil that I have right now. And I am just going to put what I consider to be about 1/2 cup. Now they also tell you that baking is a science and that you need exact measurements for things. And that is correct, especially if you want to have the same product taste exactly the same over and over again. Now for me, I am really not that much of a stickler for that. So what I try to do is make it easier for me so I don't have to clean tons of dishes, and I have something that is still delicious. So I have here what looks about 1/2 cup of peanut butter, and as I said, 1 stick of the melted butter. So I'm just going to move this around. Now ideally, to get a homogeneous product, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to heat it in the microwave for just a few seconds. So then it's going to be much easier to blend it. So here it goes. Just 30 seconds should do it. Okay. So it's just a couple of seconds. Okay, let's see. Definitely the heat tends to make peanut butter easier to mix. And so over here what we're doing is, because we're mixing fat and fat, it's a lot easier than, let's say, to mix fat in water. So as I'm turning it around, you see how it's actually mixing it in very easily. So we'll just take a couple of seconds until we get that, and just the warmth of the butter, it will all come to a homogeneous paste. And even if it's not perfect, it's still going to be delicious. So after we have that, my recipe also calls for sugar and then molasses. And the reason is because in America, brown sugar is basically white sugar with molasses added. So I'm just going to assume that what's in the vanilla cake is going to be white sugar, so I'm just adding a little bit of the molasses to get that brown sugar taste. And it's usually like a teaspoon or a tablespoon if you really like the molasses taste. And there we go. Just gonna cover that. Now, this molasses are from Trader Joe's organic blackstrap molasses. And I'm gonna show you what I have. Very good. You see it's all blending it in really, really well. Now, the next step, it's going to be to add 2 eggs. Now, I already cracked 2 eggs and I put them in a little container to make it easier for us. And they say to usually blend 1 egg at a time. Again, we're not serving in a Michelin restaurant, so we can just put them in like that. And all I'm doing is I'm just mixing them in together. Alrighty. Now the next step, it says honey. And honey is half fructose and half glucose. Now, I've been also watching my fructose intake because, again, that also bothers my stomach. So maple syrup is half fructose and half sugar 1-to-1. And when that happens, then fructose is not as much of an issue as long as you don't have a medical condition that really precludes you from having any fructose whatsoever. So here we're talking 2 tablespoons. So we're just going to add 1 and 2. All right. Now what this does in a recipe, it creates sort of like the chewiness, some of the elasticity, some of the moisture in a cookie. So in this particular recipe, and you will see it once I bake them, it is truly an amazing cookie. It actually took me quite a few iterations to create it. And interestingly enough, the book that I'm reading from is a book that I wrote. So, but that's a tale for another time. So the next we're going to put is going to be 2 tablespoons of vanilla. And here I have my bourbon vanilla that I created. I don't know if you can see. There's a video actually on how I make that. And so these are half teaspoons, so I'm just going to put 2. I'm going to put 4 actually. It says 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So it's half, 1, 1.5, 2. Now the next step, it says 2 tablespoons of half and half. Now again, I am watching my lactose because I have issues with my stomach, so I'm just going to use some chai tea. It's a way of also adding a little bit of flavor in the liquid. So there you go. Now, other things that you can add at this point if you really want an interesting cookie. I have here what's called an elderflower liqueur, and this will give the cookies sort of a lemony taste. And if you are a follower of Harry and Meghan, their wedding cake was actually an elderflower flavored cake. So they actually got me into trying it, and I really, really like this liqueur. I use most of the alcohol that I have in my house. 100% of the alcohol I have in my house is actually for baking, because I feel that it creates just a very flavorful product. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of this liqueur. That again, it really does taste like a very sweet lemonade, but in a cake it just gives it depths of flavor, so it's not like one flat flavor. Other things that I have here is a Frangelico Liqueur, and this will also give a tiny bit of sweetness and also some, I think it's Frangelico, let me see. Is it hazelnuts? A hazelnut infusion of berries and flowers. So I'm going to just put a little bit of it. Let's see what else. I also have some almond extract. And just so you know what an extract is actually the actual herb or nut you want to infuse, or fruit, with some sort of alcohol. And they bottle it and they sell it to you. So it's actually very easy to make your own if you are interested in that. So I am just mixing all of this in, and I can tell you this thing smells amazing. There is such a depth of smell. It's not just the peanut butter, but there is some hazelnut, some vanilla, some maple syrup. It's truly, truly incredible. And you can see that all the peanut butter and the butter has emulsified into this amazing cream. Now, what we need for this, to continue with our recipe, we need a little bit of salt. And I'm just going to put in like 1/4 of a teaspoon. Some people get very salt happy. I am not as much of a fan of salt and sweet recipes, but some people really go wild with that. And then the next thing that we need is baking soda. Baking soda is going to make our cookies fluffy, and so they are not flat. And let me see. I have my 1/2 teaspoon is wet, so I'm just going to use our coffee teaspoon. And for baking soda, we need just 1 teaspoon. So I'm just going to put that in there. Now, you don't want to get too crazy with the baking soda. Too much baking soda will make your food bitter. And so 1 teaspoon is sufficient. Now, a couple of add-ins. And at this point, I personally like to add like the chocolate chips or nuts or anything that you may want to add to your cookies at this point, because before you add your flour, you have the advantage of having a mixture that is very high in baking soda. So all of the chocolate chips and the nuts and everything will be evenly coated and will help the cookies rise. So that is a whole packet of Good and Gather organic semi-sweet chocolate chips. And I'm also going to put chopped walnuts. They don't have any salt. And this is it's less than 2 cups. But I'm just going to put the packet that I have. I'm pretty sure I already had. It's probably 1 cup. Let me see. Here's our 1 cup measure. And I'm just doing this to give you an idea. So that's 1 cup. Looks like a 1 cup and 1/3. All right. And so again, I'm just going to easily mix all of the peanut butter with the chocolate and the nuts. And it's extremely easy at this point to mix everything. Again, we have not added the flour or the sugar, so this is a pretty easy process at this point. Now, once we start adding the flour and sugar, which comes in the cake mix, you will find that this becomes a really big workout. So here we have finally our star ingredient, gluten-free yellow cake mix, and I am just going to put the whole pack. So I'm looking for my pair of scissors. Now at this point, I know I'm going to have a workout. So, wow, they really did do, I can smell the vanilla from the cake. So I'm going to very gently, so all the powder doesn't fly everywhere, I'm just going to stir it a little bit. And then what I'm going to do, just to make sure that everything gets incorporated properly, I'm going to get some gloves. And I'm going to mix this with my hands. So take a look at the mixture, just 1 second. And we're back. So here are the plastic gloves. Now the fun thing about all cookie recipes is that they very seldom require that you batter the, you put butter on the pan. So I have my pan ready to go with some aluminum foil, so it makes it easier for cleanup. And I also have my ice cream scoop. This is the smallest one.